Hey, everybody, it is Carol Morris from the Image Impact Group and the Visibility Room. And today we're on air with Stephanie Ruby. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stephanie, I'm going to give you a minute here to do a formal introduction to everybody, uh, who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And then we're going to dig
Yeah.
in. You ready?
So I feel like I could ramble on about that forever. Stephanie Ruby. So I have really two main roles outside of being a mom and my family. But on one side, I'm a franchise consultant and I work with individuals who are interested in learning more about franchising. And I help partner them with the perfect franchise. And I don't know if there's ever a perfect franchise, but I help find them the one that's the right fit, right? And so that's part of what I do. The other side of it is I'm a franchise owner for Image Studios. And we essentially build out mini suites for beauty professionals, and they then rent that mini suite from us. And so I consider it a business in a box. But
Oh,
really, on both sides of the table, I help people into business ownership. And so that is what I
Oh, I
do.
love that. I love that. I love that. And one of the reasons that we do these interviews, for those of you that are watching, is because I want to introduce you to, first of all, the people behind the brands. And secondly, the people that are using visibility and credibility and leadership to their advantage and, moving themselves further faster. So Stephanie and I met, gosh, Stephanie, a couple months, I don't even know. How many months ago has it been now?
I would have, has it been Mayish? Maybe,
Maybe, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
June-ish,
maybe
maybe
early,
June-ish, somewhere
yeah,
in there. Yeah.
yeah, early summer. So I reached out to Stephanie. We were going to hop on and do this interview then, and she wanted to wait a little bit. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you fill us in on what happened.
So we had scheduled this. So it was one of those mornings, and I get on to talk about what I was doing at the time, where I was, kind of more about my professional role, and
Mhm.
really at the end of the day to promote that. But I get on, and it was that moment where I was like, I'm not happy in my career, and it's nobody's fault of my own, but it was just because I was ready for the next step and the next change.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, within 30 seconds of meeting me, you had my life story and the fact that I realized I needed to make a change for myself and my family and everybody. And so that was actually the trigger point that put me into where I was realized it was time to go completely independent. And
Yeah.
you'll see my necklace. It's mini handcuffs. And so in franchising, we talk about taking off the golden handcuffs of
Hmm.
corporate America. And don't get me wrong, and I did a whole spiel on it, but I love what the corporate handcuffs did for me. They gave me a
Yeah.
life I couldn't have imagined when I was a social worker 25 years ago, right? And so
Oh,
I love what it did, but it was just time for me to make a change and be able to focus more on my family and all the
yeah.
things we look for: independence, freedom, all
Hmm.
the stuff we talk about when we're
All
in
the stuff
franchise.
we talk about. And I think it's so interesting because I'm always fascinated with the franchise world just in general. And I think it's so cool that you have sat on, I mean, let's just call it a round table at this point. You've been in every chair in the round table, right? From
Yeah.
working, at a franchise, being on the franchisor side, being a franchise owner, and now as a consultant broker. I just think that's so cool because you're able to really understand what your clients are going through. And I think a lot of people don't understand the role of a franchise consultant. And you know, one of the things that I have learned through talking to people in your position and you especially is that, without a consultant, it is a very heavy process to get through where you should be in the franchise world.
It's
Tell me
so
a
true. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me a little bit. What is your process? Because I know everybody has a different process, but if I were to come to you and say, "Hey, Stephanie, I'm ready," how would you walk me through my next steps?
By really getting to know you and your goals and everything that is Karyl, right? And so it is one of those things where there's 4,900 franchise systems out there. And so how do you whittle down to which one is the right match? And
Yeah.
so we have a meet and greet because I always think that the most important thing to
Hmm.
start is whether or not we can have a conversation. So for the longest time, I mean, my professional career has been made off of talking to people. And so if I can't hold a
Hmm.
conversation with somebody, it doesn't really make sense to go to the next
Yeah.
step. And so, so we have a good half-hour conversation, make sure there's a connection, make sure there's real interest, make sure they can hold a conversation and it's just not me drilling them with questions.
Yeah.
From there, we have them do, let's say, a semi-lengthy profile form that really
Hmm.
helps us determine what they want to be when they grow up. And so the next call from there, we spend really an hour going through it together to whittle down
Hmm.
what's important to them. The widget doesn't always matter. Or
Hmm.
it's one of the things that should be considered less because it's easy to look at the beauty industry and be like, oh, I love that. But do we have
Yeah.
the capital for it? Do I have the hours for it? Do I have the bandwidth for it? Do I want
Hmm.
employees? Do I not want employees? And so those are the things that we take into consideration of, do we place you here? Do we look at here? Where are we actually looking? Because it's more about the proverbial boxes of,
Hmm.
this is how I want to spend my time. I want to be home nights with my kids. I want to be home on the weekends with them. I want to spend maybe X amount of money out of pocket. This is what I'm hoping to achieve. But so you really go through all of the things that are important and you back into actually what the industry and what the model is. And so even
Okay.
after we spend that hour going through the profile form together to really
Hmm.
determine the things that are important to you, I spend about a week researching the different brands out there. And so I'm with Fran Coach. That's the company, that's the umbrella that I'm working with as a franchise consultant, and we partner with 60 different industries and 600 franchisors, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And so even though I've been in the industry for 12 years and I've worked with, gosh, more franchises that I could probably even name at this point, different capacities, I still do the research. And so then we have to find out, is the territory available? What is the culture like? Is our personality going to fit with the company's personality? And so, and then from there, I sit with them and go through the three brands I think check all their boxes and introduce them to the franchisors. I think the other thing too
Yeah.
that's really important that not everybody realizes, nobody's out here trying to sell a franchise. So it's not like you're not going to be
Hmm.
sold. It's a relationship, a franchise partnership. That's what it is. It's a marriage of business partnership, is how an old CEO of mine used to put it.
Yeah.
And so if you're interested in franchising, the franchise is also checking to make sure you're going to be a fit for them. And so they'll educate you
Hmm.
on the model, but they're also qualifying you to make sure it's a fit. So, and I'll say too,
And I
even
think,
when
I think,
I got my, oh, I'm so sorry.
oh, I was going to say, I just think that's the part that people often forget, is that you're being interviewed by the franchise just as much as you are interviewing the franchise,
Mhm.
or,
Yeah.
and they may or may not select you. And it's interesting because I just read an article on LinkedIn today, or a post that somebody put up, and the person got denied.
Yeah.
And the whole post was about, I coached them through to make sure that they knew what they were doing by the time they got to the franchisor, and they didn't take the steps necessary, and now they don't have the franchise. Have you ever experienced something like that,
Oh,
on
for
either side of
sure.
the table? Yeah.
Both sides of the table. I mean, it is kind of wild how many different personalities we all have. So,
Hmm.
and so part of the franchise consultant and franchisor relationship, it's, this is the person that's being presented to me. This is who is coming to you, but you never know what they're going to
Yeah.
act like on the other side. Just like when I was in franchise development and I would work with a candidate for 6 to 8 weeks, educating them,
Hmm.
qualifying them. I think I might have the perfect fit, but then they show up to an executive call stuck up or arrogant, or,
Hmm.
and then the worst is if you get to a point where they're coming to a meet the team day or discovery day, which is generally the final step of the decision making process for the franchisor as well as the candidate, and a
Yeah.
completely different person shows up, and it's like, oh, I understand everybody acts a little different after a few glasses of wine, but
Yeah.
stuff happens, right? And so, but yeah, for sure, I joke around that if we could control other people's behavior, though, we would all probably be retired and a lot
Yeah.
richer.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
but I can't
Yeah.
even get my kids to put their socks on before they go to school.
You don't
So,
need socks. You don't need socks. That takes too much time. Too much time. Oh my gosh. How, curiosity now, how did you end up with your franchise? How did you decide where you wanted to land?
so that's an interesting story. And so I'll give you the the abbreviated version, because someday I think my sister and I plan on writing a book about the whole experience. And so I had been in franchise development. It would 8 years at that point. So I'd been around, been with a few different brands.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to bring the energy down a little, but then I promise I will bring it back up. But so fast forward, it was right after COVID, my brother passed away. See, I know it's one of those things. It was not the greatest time that year. I also
Yeah.
had a newborn. It was like craziness. But so what had happened, my brother had an equity share of a major fitness franchise. And so he had what we would refer to as a sizable chunk. And so when my brother passed, he was in the midst of a battle with his business partner over his equity shares. And so after my brother passed, my sister and I, we picked up that fight. And so it was a lengthy fight. It took really about a year to settle with the business partner. Fast forward through the estranged wife, the ex-wife, the lawyers, and everybody else who comes out of the woodwork when those types of things happen. There was what I would refer to as just enough left. Just enough that we could blow through it. And I will tell you, there are days where I'm like, oh, it would have been so much easier. But so we had just enough where we could blow through it, or we could do something with it. And so my sister calls me, she said, why don't we buy a coffee franchise? I was like, oh, that sounds like a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Not because I think the coffee franchise is a horrible idea. It's not for me because I know the hours, I know the build out, I know the competition. And I've always had this thing where I never want to compete against Starbucks or Amazon.
Mhm.
Those are kind of my two benchmarks.
Okay. Yeah.
Is you never know, right? Might close the Starbucks, might open the Starbucks. I was like, I don't know. So I said, I'm good with where I am in my life. I was very happy with where I was. The baby was older. My kids were great. My life was flexible. And so I said, why don't you talk to a franchise consultant I know? So I said, I don't want to be a part of it. I'll be a silent investor, give you money because it wasn't money I was going to have anyway, you know?
Right.
And so, but she asked me to be on the first, and then when she actually said yes, I was like, oh no, now I need to find a consultant I trust. So even I used a franchise consultant, being around for as long as I have been in the industry. And so, but I found somebody that I trust. I've known him a long time, but I didn't know him too well, because I think that could also be a blurry line if you know somebody too well and you're handing your sister over to them. But I called him and I said, I have a lead for you, and you tell me if you want it, because if you put her in a bad situation, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll still take her, take good care of her. But then my sister didn't want to be alone on the calls. She wanted to be on the calls for the first couple of rounds because I was in the industry. And so when we were presented with Image Studio, I was like, no way, I'm not spending that. That's top of the budget. I was like, no way. But out of respect for my peers, it's like, I'll look at it. My sister was into it. I'm going to be silent. Her decision. She's going to be a part of it. And so, but after a few calls and getting to the point where we're talking to owners, it's like, oh, this one checks all my boxes. And so money aside, we could make it work. It was everything on paper that we wanted. And it was opposite of anything I had ever worked for, because I had always been in home services or really gritty industries, you could say, as far as my resume is concerned to that point. But it checked all the boxes. And so, so that's kind of how we fell in love with the pink champagne. We fell in love with, and I love being able to put people in business. So it matched. And it's one of those semi-absentee, which what I will share with you through my journey of, I'm going to be a silent partner and I want to send my absentee business. I am not a silent partner. Nobody will ever care about me. I care about my money. And then from there, it still takes time, effort, and energy. But so we're excited. It's there. It's running. We survived. We're still sisters and friends. And
I love that. That's a great end to that story, right? And I know how it is to work with family, and it can be really fun, but it can also be taxing, right? And you do have to be careful of, the shifts and the ebbs and flows and all that good stuff. The other thing that I think is really fascinating about you, Stephanie, is that everything you've done throughout however many years now is put people in business. And so, again, from the franchisor side to the franchise you chose, which puts individuals into business, to now moving into this consultancy which is absolutely about putting people into business. Did you ever think that that was going to be your path?
No. No. So not at all. So I fell into franchising after the birth of my first son. I was a social worker. Then I got into weight loss coaching, and but I was on maternity leave, and with my first son, I'm like, I can't work those hours. It's not good money. I was like, I'm going to go back to school and get my MBA online while I have this baby. And if I thought what I wanted to make, I wanted to get my MBA to make not. It's I look at it now, it's not even I just wanted to be able to float my life, right? Just
Yeah.
survive. And so I was like, oh, let me get an MBA so I can barely survive. And so, but I thought I thought I applied for a recruiter job actually, because I knew that I had a good phone voice. Not necessarily today because I'm congested after being at a mini conference, probably from talking too much, maybe too much alcohol. But but I thought I was getting a recruiter job, and I quick clicked this job, and this guy was like, no, you talk to people and they eventually buy a franchise. And I'm like, yeah, right. But I had weekends off. I was like, let's give it a try. And here I
Yeah.
am almost 13 years later. Yeah. Yeah.
Just sucked you
So
up.
it took, and once you get into franchising, you don't leave. You don't
Yeah.
leave.
I
So
have learned that. I have learned that. I started working with franchise consultant probably about 5 years ago. She's a client of mine, and I'm literally fascinated by the whole thing. So that, now more and more I've worked with, franchisees, franchisors, and the consultants. And you guys all have these fun stories. And it just is such a dynamic group of people that I can understand why you don't leave.
well,
And
it's
there's
such a
always
small
something
industry.
different.
We're
Yeah.
all small. So, for example, you're, is it Karyl? Karyl, like this is how small it is. Is it
Yeah.
Karyl from? Yeah, from Freenet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's how small the
Exactly.
industry is. I don't know. Am I allowed to say her name on
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me, Karyl, if I drop that. But we all know each other, so
Right.
it's
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
small.
And you just told me at the beginning of this call. I mean, I knew you knew Kelly, but I didn't know you guys were in a mastermind together. I mean, it is the
Yeah.
smallest world. I'm just one little person here in Detroit who just happened upon franchising, and everybody's connected. And I think it's really pretty fascinating.
Everybody is connected. And that
Everybody's
can be
connected.
good or bad depending
Yeah.
on how you do it. I had somebody. It was the best way to put it, because it's so small and so interconnected and we all know each other. He said, your reputation in franchising is like your credit score. If you take a few dings, it's
Mm,
going to take time to repair. And I'm like, oh, so true. So
yes. Oh my gosh. And that is such a good segue to my questions I have for you.
let's see
Are you
what we
ready
got.
for my rapid fire
I don't know.
5?
Oh, we're going to go. We'll see
We're
what comes up
going.
anyway.
We're
We'll see.
we're going. Okay. And this is interesting because the very first question is, what first impression do you want others to have of you?
Oh, that is a good question. That I am friendly and I am open to being a safety person. That might not make complete sense, but when I'm so shy actually but when I first started when I got into conferences and on
Yeah.
the circuit, which again I thought I was going to be a recruiter and I was going to hide behind the phone my life, but next
Right.
thing you know, I'm at these conferences. When I was first new in the industry, I didn't know anybody and I was scared to go into those rooms full of hundreds of people I didn't know. So now I know the people, and so for new people, I want them to know that I'm a safe person to come to and talk to and
I love
stand with
that.
if you need somebody to stand with at conferences, because you don't know.
I love that. So, for those of you out there that are ready to go to conference and you haven't really been yet, look for Stephanie Ruby. You should have like a little hat on, a little flag.
I
I'm
don't need
safe.
to. I'm 6 foot tall without heels, and I wear heels. So I generally
Right?
recommend look for the tallest girl in the room. That is,
That's awesome.
come to me. We will talk.
We
I will
will talk.
introduce you to people. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So this is a great segue to the second question. What is your favorite way to connect with people?
Oh, that's so through one-on-one conversation. I'm a one-on-one person all day long. I prefer in-person one-on-one. Uh,
Hmm.
Ironically, when it comes to having one-on-one conversations with somebody in this day and age, if it's not going to be in person, I prefer the phone versus camera.
Ah,
And I know it's so different, but I feel like I can pick
Yeah.
up on the energy over phones much better. I can hear if they're thinking through silence, or if their silence is them thinking through something, versus
Yeah.
camera. I get distracted by the other cues, like, oh, I
Gotcha.
need to go to the hairdresser. Oh, they're
Oh,
touching their nose. Like, so it's so one-on-one conversation, hands down, any
right.
day of the week. But then from there, if it's virtual, I prefer phone for initial conversations versus in real life. I like
Interesting.
one.
And that is a lot different from where people are today, especially the younger generation, honestly.
Yeah,
They're always I was talking to somebody the other day. Was it you? And you were talking about how your son thinks that everybody has to FaceTime?
just he'll
Was it
call me FaceTime, and if he won't answer, so I'll call him on the phone. He's 12. He's a
yeah.
walker to school. We got him a phone. Want to make sure I can track him, but he won't answer the phone. He'll call me back on FaceTime and not say anything. I'm like, can you at least say hello? When you answer the phone, you say hello or hi, mom. Hi.
Oh my God, I think that's so
Got
funny.
you
Okay, moving on. What builds credibility faster? Expertise, presence, or consistency?
FaceTime. Presence. I think
And why do you
presence.
say that?
How do you become an expert if you're not present in the moment and taking in what's around
Mm,
you? So, and I can be so guilty of this, especially now that I've been around a while. But it's really
yeah.
easy to want to instill your expertise into other people and just throw information at them.
Hmm.
Versus, I think
Yeah.
the best way to learn is to sit back and listen. And the thing is you can learn from anybody and everybody at different walks of life, different levels in their career. Like,
Right.
there's something to take from everybody to instill into your own style, verbiage, whatever it may be. But I think being present is a huge part of it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. What's a trust killer that you often see?
Oh, definitely speaking negatively around other people about other people in
Hmm.
this industry. It goes back to me, I have a very tight circle of the people who, if you ever see me sitting and drinking in a corner at a conference, I know those people like their family, right? But I think it's really easy to forget in our industry, and I warn new people of this all the time. You don't know
Hmm.
who's connected to who. So
Yes.
you, just because you may not like that person or you had a negative experience, that
Hmm.
person could be good friends with so and so. They could have gotten started
Yeah.
in the industry with this person. And
Yeah.
so it's being really cautious of the words you use about other people when you're in front of
Hmm.
people you don't necessarily know.
Yeah. And that's just
And
good
if you do,
human
make sure
being,
you know
right?
them well. What was that? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I was saying, and that's good being a good human being too, right? Just be nice. And if there isn't something that you can say that's nice about them, just move on.
I tell the newbies in the industry, I'm like, as you come in, keep your ear to the ground, but you got to keep your mouth shut because you don't know who knows who. And so you got to
Yeah.
be super respectful
Yeah.
of that. So,
Again, great segue to my final question. What is the one leadership lesson that has stuck with you?
I've had so many great leaders and mentors in my life. Um, so many. So I could probably pick one from all of them.
Hmm.
If you're talking about me as a leader, I'll actually go there.
Okay.
So, best advice professionally is activity breeds results. That's what Dana
Ooh.
Hansen, the person who brought me into franchising, that's what he would always say, because activity breeds results. Skill can
Hmm.
be learned along the way. Just act, right? But that also is another mentor I had, Eric Martin, the happiness brands. He always said, if you think it and you feel it, then you should say it. And
Ooh.
so I stick with I know, which
Yeah.
leads me to, as any failure I've had, whether it's through leadership, career, personal, it's if I can't be my genuine self, I will not do well.
Yeah.
Way back when I used to manage weight loss centers,
Hmm.
they wanted me to be a very specific way, and I was very young. They had me wear buns and blazers, but I was managing like women 18 to 52, and it was
Yeah.
chaos, and what a different world. But I was in. but they wanted me to communicate information in a very specific way. And my boss would joke, she's like, your tell is that your neck turns red and you rub it if you're not comfortable saying what you're saying.
Ah,
And
yes.
so I don't have to do that anymore because I'm comfortable in who I am now, to just
Hmm.
this is how I feel. This is what I thought. This is this.
Yeah.
I have to be able to be myself, or I just isn't going to work in any other
Well,
way.
you know what? And that's the reason that I, just felt so excited to talk to you after the initial time we got on, because we were just, we met through LinkedIn, right? We got
Yeah.
on and
Yeah.
immediate connection, immediate, because I think we're both like that. Is, life is meant to be a little fun, by the way, right? And
Yes.
and at the same time, you can be really good at what you do, and you can be serious about what you do, and you can have great fun conversations and still get whatever you need to get done in a way that sets you apart from everybody else. And I think
Agreed.
that is what's so cool about you. So
Oh, we
gosh,
definitely had a connection because it was
yeah.
30 seconds, and I'm like, this is where I'm in life, and I think I need to do this, and I think I need to quit my job.
That is kind of funny now that you think about it. You're right.
I was telling Kelly that. She's like, seriously, I was
Oh
like,
my
oh yeah.
God.
She was the
Too
first to know that
funny.
I had changes
Yeah.
coming. I didn't know what they were at the time, but yeah. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for trusting me with that conversation, because I thought it was really cool. And here we sit now, all these months later, and we've got a couple things up our sleeves together. So
me
it's pretty
too.
exciting. Well, thank you so much for jumping on with me. And I know that you and I can just keep on talking, but I try really hard to keep these short. But there's so many great things that you've dropped in here, and life lessons, and what to do if you're coming in, into this industry as a newbie, how to maneuver within the consultancy world, as far as if you're looking for a franchise. There's so many great things in here. So thank you for sharing your time and your brilliance, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Obviously, it's always fun
Well,
talking to you. I know we
you
could go
are
on for
welcome. All right, everybody. As usual, we are always here to answer any of your questions. And if you or somebody else thinks that they should be on air at the Visibility Room, give us a shout and let's have a conversation. All right, we'll talk to you all soon. Bye bye.